their final words to me were, you're never going to walk again properly.
Okay, so Emily, we're here at the OVO, take 2. And you've just come off stage. You've been dancing, performing. Tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do.
Okay. So my name is Emily Liley. I minister with flags. Flagging is probably my greatest passion. I love it because it's a place where I can really connect with the Father and listen to him, and the most incredible things happen.
Okay, so for people that maybe aren't Christians or aren't used to seeing dance or flags, and they could hear that you're in your own little world sometimes on your space, but you're talking about very much that it's actually changing something. So can you explain to perhaps somebody who doesn't know anything about dance and that spiritual side and can't really comprehend, rather than just looking like some nice flags waving, what is happening in that time?
So if I take it back to when I had my son, and I was right at the very beginning of my flag ministry, so I had an epidural basically, and I couldn't walk afterwards. And I was a trained dancer, and to be a trained dancer and then suddenly to not have balance and not be able to do all the normal things that you did, and to feel quite embarrassed being at the front, knowing how clumsy you are, knowing that you're going to lose your balance at any time. During those times when I worshipped, I would say to the Father, will you take my eyes off myself and put my eyes on you? And Father, will you start to show me what's going on in the room? And little by little, he started to teach me what was going on in the room and how to intercede over people and how to shift atmospheres. And I've had people crying in front of me. I've had people just laid out. And it's not because of me, it's because of him. That I've never experienced anything like it,
It's perhaps difficult for people that don't understand the power that our bodies, it's not just our voice. We know about singing and worship, but actually our bodies, we express. It communicates. You think of people that can't perhaps hear and they use sign language to communicate, that we actually communicate through our bodies and expression. And I know when I've actually been in worship and just felt like I'm almost conducting something that I can see in the spirit realm that maybe other people can't see. And you're kind of expressing what you see in the spirit and saying, come on, everybody else, look, I can hear the heavenly angels singing. And I'm just feeling like, come on, join in, let's join in. And I know sometimes I've seen things and then people have come and said to me, when you dance, I've seen this or I've seen that. And it's almost like, I think sometimes we can be a little bit of a gateway to showing people. But it sounds a bit odd, I think, for people that perhaps don't understand that.
When I came out of hospital and I couldn't walk properly and I was on crutches and I had the MRI scan and all those doctor's appointments and consultants and everything, their final words to me were, you're never going to walk again properly. Maybe in 4 years' time, you'll walk a little bit better, but this is it. You'll never walk again properly. But during those times, the Father would give me this dream. And in the dream, I would be running through the fields with the Father, and the wind would be blowing through my hair, and he would be speaking over me, and he'd be saying to me, when I created you to run, and you will run before you can walk. And almost 2 years after having Max, I was at Sainsburys.
That's your son?
Yeah, Max is my son, the baby that I had when I had the epidural. So I pulled up at Sainsburys, and I'm saying to the Father, I really wanted to go to this healing meeting tonight, and I really wanted to be prayed for, and this guy's coming over from America and he's healed all these people, and he said to me, I'm everywhere. I was like, yeah, I know you're everywhere, but I just wanted to go. And he said to me, I want you to run down the side of Sainsburys. And before I could even think to myself, how on earth am I supposed to do that? I could feel this overwhelming urge welling up inside of me to run down the side of Sainsburys. And I got out the car, picked up Max, handed him to my daughter. And she said, what are you doing? I said, I'm just going to run down the side of Sainsburys. She's like, what? What do you mean you're going to run down the side of Sainsburys? So I hobbled over to where Sainsburys was, because I literally had to drag this leg anyway. And it hung like my foot hung at a weird angle. Every time I lifted it up, it just hung. And so I went over to where Sainsburys was, and then I ran. And when I ran, everything in my body worked perfectly. Every muscle, every ligament. God, it was the best feeling. Running all the way down the side of Sainsburys, and I turned around, and the kids like screaming at me like, Mom, you're running. And like I wasn't lilting like I would normally do as I walked. And then I hobbled back to them. I said to them, do you remember the Father said to me that I would run before I walked? Well, I just ran, so one day I will walk. You know, it was the very first kind of part of the fulfillment of his promise.
People who perhaps don't have that feeling of connection, there feels a bit of a disconnect, and maybe they're listening to you and that's not their reality, and they're thinking, but I'd love to dance, I'd love to kind of taste some of what Emily's talking about. What would you say to them, just briefly, to begin to experience some of what we're talking about today?
Just go get yourself some flags.
or just use your body. I mean, I don't use flags, but I still feel like my arms are an extension.
Yeah, because I, as a trained dancer, that's how I started. So it's a bit like that space where it's just you and him, and he's ministering to you personally. And it's incredible, basically.
And it is awesome, so much so that you came and you performed actually at my book launch.
And
So, yes.
I want everyone to support this platform, plug into what they're doing because they are phenomenal. And remind me of the name of your book, please.
My book. Have a look. Make sure it hasn't got a name
So
in
this
it.
says Discern the Time. And I think, can you hear the call to be positioned for purpose? Get this book so you can discern the time.
And as a dancer, obviously, I just engage with seeing you entering into God's presence. But how does it feel when you're in different spaces, different size stages, working along artists such as Sinach? Tell me about some of the different spaces that you've been and what's that like?
yeah, each space is completely different. So as you walk in through the door, you're literally listening to what's going on in the room, spiritually. And it's like the Father takes you on a journey every single place that you go to. So I've been to America, I've been to Germany, I've been to Ireland, and each place has been completely different. And the Father's spoken in completely different ways. And it's funny because you're ministering to others, but at the same time, he ministers to your heart as well. So each time you come back different, and you come back changed, and you come back healed again in another kind of dimension that you hadn't even thought of. And yeah, it's just so much to unravel. If even the colors, each one has a different meaning to it. And it's not just a biblical meaning to each one. It's like a personal meaning between me and the Father. And I know that when he asks me to pick up certain colors, it gives me a hint to what he's going to do in the room as I'm ministering. And it's exciting because everything is just like a journey.
What would you say about tonight, or what's been happening? What have you experienced, or what do you feel that you're trying to you feel God is wanting to communicate through you in this space?
His Majesty, just the awesomeness of who he is as a king, as above every other principality, above every ruler, above everything. And it's a very different space to spaces that I've been in before. And it's beautiful because every so often it goes into the prophetic and it's touching people's hearts and removing things and shifting things and imparting things. And yeah, I just love the whole journey.
And I love that because it's so much more. It's not just a spectacle, but it's actually changing people's lives.
That's one thing. I love spending time with him, and to be able to worship and for him to come is the best thing in the world, really. Yeah.
So that's awesome. And I love that. And it's like the fact that God is now using your body. So for anybody that maybe can't move or feels restricted, that they can still express through their body in ways that conversation and that worship that I hear is going on outside, but maybe we'll go back and join that. But it's been a pleasure talking to you, Emily.
It's so good to see you.